Hey people, how y'all doing? I told y'all about Save 7 Lives over time. People ask me how and why and all that stuff. I tell you about the first one. This happened when I was 15. I won't not mention the man's name. He will maybe watch this and he will know who he is. And I talked to you not too long ago, and you're doing good, man. I'm glad for it. Yeah, we were friends. He had a 16 millimeter um, movies and projector when we were young, and he had a bunch of 16 millimeter horror movies and stuff. And we go down, I go down there with him, and we'd sit and watch him and bullshit. And we were pretty good friends. It got to the point where I could just walk in his house, knock on the door, and say, "Hey," and they'd say, "Come on in." Well, one day I knocked on the door, and wasn't no answer. But I knew he was there, so I called him, by name. "Come to the door, man." No answer. So I said, "I'm coming in." So I come in, and he's sitting at the kitchen table. He's sitting at the kitchen table. He's got his shotgun taped to a pile of books, which is taped to the kitchen table. A string from the trigger to the butt of the gun underneath the table to the other end of the table where he was sitting with the string in his hand. I took the seat next to him and asked him, "Man, what are you doing? This will kill your younger brother and your younger sister. This is kill your parents. You cannot do this. There's people that care for you and they not care for you. Talk about this." We sit there and talk for about 20 minutes. And as he was talking, I told him, "I want to start taking this gun down. I want to take these books apart. I want you to drop that string, okay?" Well, he didn't want to really, drop that string for a few minutes. But I sit there and told him, "Man, they love you. It's going to kill them. It's going to kill your grandparents." Oh, shit. This is 50 years ago and this shit still bothers me. Oh. So I eventually got him to drop the string. I went around to the other end of the table and pulled the string away from him. And then I turned the books and turned the gun. Even though they were taped down, I turned them as much as I could so they wasn't pointing at him. Just a minute, people. So I took the string trigger off, the string off the trigger, untaped the gun, unloaded it, laid it back on the table, and sit back down. We talked for another 20 minutes, maybe a half an hour longer. And when I left, he promised me he wouldn't do it again. And about a year and a half later, this is after we graduated high school. About a year and a half later, he seen me and stopped me and thanked me. Told me he had met a woman, fell in love, and they had a kid and stuff. Awesome. That's the first one I remember. Um, Another one. This happened quite a while later. One of my um, divorce thing, I started seeing somebody else, and met an old friend again. Started talking to her, seeing her a little bit, and wanted to go. They wanted to go. Her and her brother wanted to go swimming, so we go down the river. We'll do some swimming. Sounds great. Poor girl. We was drinking a couple beers, nothing major. I think she had two, I had two, her brother had two or three. Nothing. We wasn't drunk or nothing. But there's this concrete dam on the river there, and it's been there for 45, 50 years at this point. And it was covered with the real fine green slippery algae. And there's a curb on the downstream side of it to catch the water and make it go off a certain point. Well, she walked all the way out to the very end of that curb and sat down. So I walked out there and I was sitting down behind her on the main part of the concrete spillway. And we're sitting there talking, and she leans her right hand back. Excuse me. She leans her right hand back, and her hand goes into the water at the end of the curb. And her hand slips on that algae, and she kind of tips over sideways. And that water catches her arm and shoulder and pulls her off that dam right there behind the dam. And it's about 25, 30 foot deep behind that dam. And when they made it, they dropped two great big oak trees, one from either side of the river. They cut all the limbs off, then dropped the big logs side by side. When they cut the limbs off, they left them 4 or 5 foot long to help them catch rocks and stuff, keep the dam going, so it wouldn't wash away. Well, on this end, she went right down into that tree, right through all those limbs, and it beat the crap out of her. I mean, she must have hit every limb that was still attached to that big old tree stump down there. So I didn't know where she was going to come up, so I had to wait to see where she was going to come up. And I seen her hands come up, and I dove in, and I swam as hard as I could, and it was like being in a washing machine, man. Bubbles and swirls and water pushing me every which way. But I gave it everything I had. I swam as hard as I could swim, and I came up right next to her. I couldn't see her. There's too many bubbles and shit in the water, but I came up an arm's length from her. And she was going back down. Her head was still above, but her eyes were closed. She was knocked out. And I got to her and I grabbed her hair and pulled her back up, and then put my arm around her underneath the armpits and started dragging her over to the shore. It was a pretty swift current then. It was not low summer water yet. And there was people that were fishing there. And if they hadn't been there, neither one of us would have made it. It got to the point where I was 4 foot from the shore and I couldn't go almost no further. I said, grab her, grab her, grab her. A couple guys grabbed her, and I'm trying to get out, trying to grab rocks so I can crawl out, and then the guy helps me out. Well, that's 2 out of the 7 I saved. I'll tell you other ones later on, people. I'm at the hospital with Nate again. He's getting his infusion in his stomach. Takes 2.5 to 3 hours. So it's story time. Thanks, y'all. Take care. Bye.